Okay, so you see that up there? That is a beach in Japan with 60,000 people on it, or more. Maybe as many as 100,000 people on it. And it's a photograph that I took. It's multiple. It's actually 16 frames of photograph that I took on the in 2005. They do this event there. That's every summer. And so I went out into the beach, and all the Japanese were sitting there, and I shot like this, 16 shots, and stitched them all together, and that's what that thing is up there. That's what you're looking at. It's pretty long, as you can see. And I printed 3 draft copies of that very quickly because I wanted to see how it looked, basically. I did not treat the individual photos, which would have made it a composite of a very different type. Instead, I just treated each photo and then stitched it all together by hand. I mean, using a computer, but I mean stitching the sequences myself. And the result has slight changes in color in the photo. If I remember correctly, it was just about to be sunset, and I was running out of battery on this is a 2005 digital camera. Maybe it was from 2003 or 2004 in there. The battery was dying, and I ran out into the ocean because I wanted to get this thing. And so I do think some of the change in color tone is also the result of the camera not fully being able to, be at a sort of kind of operand. I mean, functioning properly. And interestingly, I have had that up there for some time. And today, as I was going through all this old material, I found the disc with the file on it. This is the disc with the file of that Japanese stitched 16 image stitch, which I can now print on, with contemporary tools, and it strikes me as rather exciting. That happened to be the 60th anniversary of the bombing of Nagasaki. Nobody there was there to think about that. They were there for the annual fireworks show, which takes place in one of the most beautiful bays in all of Japan. I was aware of it being an American. Didn't really mention it, of course. And I thought to myself about the 60 years since the bomb was dropped, as I stood in the ocean looking at all of these rather successful Japanese families and their contemporary society, and I was proud of them. I was very proud of the Japanese in this moment when I took this photo. It has unusual little elements which are kind of funny. One of them is my son is jumping around. He's 3 years old, and he appears in 2 frames because he was in this frame, and then he jumps over to that frame just as I was taking the photo. And there's some other interesting little things. I think a bird, some similar thing happens with a bird, I believe, or a dog or something. But that stitched photo, that's just a draft up there. I'm not going to say it's a low-quality draft, because at the time it was printed, it was pretty high quality for that time, but it wasn't museum quality. I just needed a print so I could look at it. And I used a mall, one of these places in the mall where you could go and print things. I forget the names of those little joints they used to have. They just don't exist anymore because of the digital generation changing and the cloud and all of it. But yeah, this first 5 minutes today is about that piece. Does it have a title? I can't remember if it has a title. It needs a title. And these 5 minutes I'm going to separate and put up on the net. So Thank you. Japan piece, 16 image stitch. Okay, so much is happening since Rosencrantz sent me this tape, which had all that stuff on it. I figured out what this is. This is... Okay, I've been playing games with time for many, many years. I have been a person who has noodled on the notion of time, probably dangerously so. You know, they say it can make you nutty, right? If you think too much about time. But I've used it as a source of playful relevance. One of the projects I do, for example, is anybody who died in the year that I was born, 1967. Anybody who died that year that I like or admire, I try to make things by them, or about them, or celebrating them. This has the twinfold effect of reinforcing my belief in reincarnation, Hinduism's belief in reincarnation, and mine too. Circular energy is real, as though they died and then I was born, to just maintain them. So to that end, I make prints by different people and so on. That's one example of toying with time. Another example is I send myself time capsules. The way I do this is I've never owned property or a home. I've traveled like a piece of ash in the wind for the last 25 years all over. And I leave stuff everywhere. I just leave it. And then it comes back to me. Someone will mail it to me, or someone will find it, or someone will say, hey man, when I run into them, I haven't seen them in a long time. Remember this? And they'll hand it to me. And then I'll get a chance to look at that, and now I'm talking to myself from that amount of time ago. This is an example of that. This is from 17 to 15 years ago. And the clips you're seeing go up are coming from it. And I decided, hey, why limit ourselves? And what I found is really exciting. Some amazing stuff on these discs, for example, including that Japan photo. And then this, which I'm so excited about. This is gonna be a teaser. I'm not gonna tell you what that is. I found copies of the evening news that I did over the years. I found all kinds of interesting things while being woken up by this newfound content that arrived as a time capsule for me. I'm telling you that it's a cool thing to do, to send yourself time capsules. And that if you engineer them yourself and don't tell anybody else about them, this is the first time I've mentioned it to anybody else, but I mean, that's only because now I'm live streaming for the first time in my life in an attempt to have some communication with the world. I'm live streaming from my studio. This is the only reason I'm sharing it now, but it's great when you communicate with yourself across time. That's fantastic. Art has the capacity to do that. All artists know this. You can go to a place and see a mural you made way back when, or go to a museum and see a piece that you made, or whatever. It's like traveling in time. But sending something to yourself in the future is another tactic. And that is what this is right here. I'm so excited to take this to the to that spot for processing. Although I didn't love the way those .vop files came over. If I'm honest with you, I may just pay them to make, but I want to be able to edit it. But if it's an MP4, I can edit it, right? We have to decide what the best quality is for this. But anyway, two fantastic things came out of that. I can print that Japanese beach photo, and I can take this in for processing to see some new content that I'm really excited about. Regards the content I put up. That is the World Trade Centers in the summer of 2001 from the rooftop of my place in Brooklyn, and it was quiet and pretty up there. I used to go up there all the time and film the skyline. I have lots of footage of it somewhere. And I put on this tape what I realized about myself. This is what is weird about this. Is I don't remember this. When Rosencrantz said it, he was like, yeah, I got this. Okay, great. What it is little pieces of stuff that I wanted to save before taking off to go to Japan with everything. In the event that it all was lost, right? So the rationale was this was supposed to be some cool, and what it is really strange. This bong rip, real deliberate, purposeful ripping of this bong in front of the camera with my beard really long was supposed to, I think, show how long my beard was, and that bong, obviously, I would have to give away. I can't travel with it. It was my bong for a year and a half, but it's a very strange thing to put in there. It can be included in this list of I have a series, if you will, that I've been making over decades because I don't want to do stuff about marijuana at all. I'm not interested in making art about it. I want it to be normal in society. So my goal is to just normalize it, and has been from the beginning. But I have shot in very specific contexts myself consuming. There's a picture. There's some video of me in New York, looking stylish and smoking a joint. Okay, and then there's video of me in another place doing something else. And this is a weird, like, short minute and a half of me taking a bong hit in LA in '05. So I think I must have thought then that there'll be a time, like now, when I'll look romantically at all these times in my life when I was just, getting high and being there. It's possible that's what the point of that was. So that chunk is on there. There's another chunk where I'm just face to the camera and my full beard, it's really long and it's black, which I can't believe because it's all white now. My whole beard comes in white now. And I'm talking about what's happening, right? Who am I talking to? Me now, I guess. So 15 years later, right, the 37-year-old me is looking at me and he's saying, all right, packing up the stuff. We're getting ready to go to Japan. I'm going to do a review of the 9/11 piece, the Discourse on the Polarizing Events piece, describing what's going to be on the tape, which is pointless. And I seem not distracted, but sort of like I've clearly just turned on the thing. But it ends up being valuable to me just because I didn't take selfies. I never shot myself until the last 5 years, 3 years. So this was this weird footage. And there's a couple of them. There was this beautiful piece I had that I liked, textile piece from India, and there's footage of it. I'm going to find those and throw those up as well. And then there's this gorgeous 30 seconds of the WTCs. Then there's this chunk of trying to show people what I did on the radio, as clean and cut as I could. That's the piece I put up. The two flashback pieces I put up are the WTCs and the radio bit. So I purposefully communicated with myself across the space of 15 years just now, and technology changed in such a fashion that I can communicate it like this. And the interpretation or the contextualization of this footage now is up to me in the new context, in the new world we live in. To that end, I have tons of audio. I collected audio for a decade and a half, 2 decades, because I love sound and music and audio. And I have material that can be translated in a lot of different ways and needs to be, that only I know about, and maybe the people who experienced it, they know about it. This, for example, is when Gary Graham, who called himself Shaka Sankofa, was executed by the state of Texas, though he was innocent, and people protested it. This is hours of the live footage before and during his execution and immediately after his execution, these 2 tapes, Shaka Sankofa and Gary Graham, in the summer of the year 2000, when anti-death penalty support for our cause against the death penalty was really high, and we were really trying to make noise about how this black man had been framed, and the system was completely flawed and lost, and he died, of course. was executed by the state of Texas under George W. Bush while he was running for president. So that's 2 tapes just like that. And that whole thing, the memories that go in there, I could talk about on the air for hours, or I could play for you, or I could reframe. I'm not sure what the purpose of that is yet, right? So it sits and I keep it handy. I'm thinking, well, I need to think about editing that and what does it mean in the larger picture, right? And then I found this box, which is just unbelievable when you look at this. I mean, I don't know if you can fully read this, but I'm going to try to set it up to where you can. All right, look. On this box you have Yankee Stadium. That's the old Yankee Stadium right above home plate. I had a microphone during Clemens versus Irabu, Yankees versus the Jays, when Clemens played for the Jays. A fight breaks out during that. That's Mozart's Requiem played by the New York Philharmonic at Lincoln Center. That's the Fordham Road Festival in the Bronx. That's my road trip from Seattle to New York. So audio from all over the country on micro cassette. Interviews with Norman Siegel, recordings of Ben Allison, the trio, at the club when they first started. I have LKJ live at the park. That's Linton Kwesi Johnson. Spike Lee, when I was working at the magazine, interviewed by one of the guys at the magazine, and all of my work for that. So these, like this box of micro cassette tapes has so much memory. It's all New York, when I lived in New York. It's all audio from the city of New York, except for the one where I was driving from Seattle to New York. And we used it in a project, much of this, called Audio Magazine, which is a beautiful project. It's online. You can see it. I'll put a link for the Audio Magazine that I've put up on the net in the descriptions to this particular thing. The Audio Magazine was a tape that looked like this. I made 5,000 of these. Volume 1, Issue 1. April, May, and June of 1998. I made 5,000 of these and we distributed them all over the city. And it was made from not only these tapes that I collected, but 5 or 6 or 10 other people who participated in the project. And we all collected sound, audio all over New York. And then we made a half-hour tape, 15 minutes on each side, that was supposed to be for your commute. You know? And we made CDs too, digital versions, but we wanted to make analog versions. So that's what that is. But all that audio, for me, is this incredibly rich, three-dimensional in my mind. I can put on these headphones, and I can listen to that, and the depth of memory and information that returns to me from it is so vast. And that's just, 2 or 3 years in New York. Videotapes, audio tapes, chunks of our lives. I'm 52. The beginning of everybody filming everything starts a little after that. So they're going to have all images of their whole lives. We're going to have select chunks of ours left in the long run, if there is a long run of digital archival sensibility. That's why now I'm starting to cull or harvest some of this older material. I never had any people who liked me, that were my friends and stuff. They didn't realize what I needed was to be supported much bigger than they were supporting me. They didn't really understand what I was trying to do. And a lot of the times, because it was antithetical to or in protest of contemporary American society, they were mostly just humoring me. I never had anyone really try to lift up. Pacifica did to a degree, but then once I tried to get them to go the distance, they immediately backed off. And now I was thinking about Walt Whitman taking the picture of himself in his suspenders with his hat and writing. He wrote reviews of his own book to people and told them about how great it was. That's how the beginning of Leaves of Grass becomes the epic of American culture that it is. And I don't promote myself well, so and I'm constantly staying so real that I'm a dick, you know, and I'm an asshole sometimes, and my pursuit of, you know, truths and ethics and ideas is so naked and in front of what I'm doing all the time that I don't promote what I have done. And I think that the only thing that's going to be left for me as a failed writer is to be preserved online. That is what I'm doing. I'm preserving the stuff I did online. No one looks at it because I don't have a publicist and I'm not in the academy. If I was either in the academy or had a publicist, then a lot of this material might be very interesting both to academics and to regular folk. But operating as I am, it's not quite gonna work. That's 20 minutes. Why don't we listen to a little music, as we have done in the past on our program. Today we'll be hearing some new stuff written by myself, composed, composited, if you will, using the Music Maker Jam action. We're going to check out a little bit of the, that's not right, we want to check out a little bit of the track of the day full playlist, which is a 21 track playlist. And starts with Your Own Good. Song I wrote, I think, day before yesterday. Not really a song. It's more of an earworm, really, if I'm honest. No, you're not very wrong. You're just going along for your own good. No, you're not really wrong. You're just going along for your own good. No, you're not really wrong. You're just going along for your own good. No, you're not really wrong. You're just going along for your own good. No, you're not really wrong. You're just going along for your own good. Floppy disks. No, you're not very wrong. Floppy disks. You're just going along. Floppy your own good. Whoa, what is this? Hey, there's a slide in here, guys. Oh my god, there's a slide in here. I've never... my gosh, that is so amazing. It's like finding treasure. That photograph is from 2002. Floppy disks. I wish this person would come back. Walk right up to the White House and kick out the resident. I would like this person to do that. Floppy disk. Look at this. 1997. This is writing from the late 90s. Art Defense. Oh my god, I remember writing that. That's 94! This one says, stuff from WordPerfect in Mac now. There's stories here. First draft, stories, the plan. Oh, the plan is in here. That was a terrible story, I thought. The plan was about this dance contest. Kisses and Nails is the name of something, and I have no idea what that is. And Transcript, I also remember what that is. Oh, the novel I wrote in 98. Oh, with all corrections. That's my second novel. Wait a second. No, third. That's my third novel right there. Third novel. 97, 98 writings, 97 writings, 96, 95, 95, 94, 94, 95, 95, 96, 94 to 98. 94 to 98. It says 93 to 97 on the outside of the box. Alright, well that's interesting. Now that is a lot of content, all of it writing. Some images maybe, but the vast majority of that is writing. I wrote 1,000,000 words long before I was 30. Lots of fiction, poetry. Printing that Japan photo, right? Daft Punk recorded live at the Greek Theater on a digital format, MD, and then transferred to a tape just so I could listen to it. Swimming in media now. What we're doing. We're swimming through the media. You dig?